What's going on, everyone? Everyone, it's time for another film review. Today, we're going to talk about the thriller Manhunter, produced by MGM, August 15th, 1986. It was produced by Richard Roth and written and directed by Michael Mann. It's based on the same the novel. It's part of the same series as the Hannibal series. So, yeah, this is technically the first Hannibal Lecter type film, and it was a little different than I was expecting. But yeah, Michael Mann, he's also directed some pretty high praise films like Heat, Miami Vice, the movie, one that came out in like mid 2000s, Collateral, Public Enemies, and a couple others. But yeah, so Manhunter is basically, it's sort of on the same line as The Silence of the Lambs. Um, so there's a detective who's having troubles at home and stuff, and he is asked to go and interview a deranged serial killer, Mr. Lecter, who is also a cannibal who ate some of his victims and stuff, to get insight on to try to help track down and uh, come up with like a profile for a serial killer, an elusive serial killer known as the Tooth Fairy that they dubbed. And yeah, so as he goes and interviews him, he is forced to look back at some of his darker demons and dark side of his career and deal with the emotions and problems that are caused because of that. And yeah, it's quite the interesting little film. Now, this one is a slow burn. It's not as fast paced as The Silence of the Lambs, for example, or even Hannibal. This one's a way slower, more darker sort of story of it, but not much really happens. They don't really show you any of the kills or anything. You get to see the aftermath, sort of like in Seven. Um, they do it that way, so you do get to see it. Some of it didn't really hold up, I thought, right now. It does look a little cheesy at times, but yeah, so he sees a lot of it, and then you get to see some of like the video of the killer filming what happened and stuff that he leaves behind, and leaves all these weird clues and stuff. And then you also get to hang out with the killer, who's this really weird, deranged dude, and yeah, he falls pretty much in love with this blind girl, and it's hard for him to fight his urges and take her out. And yeah, so but then once she starts seeing other people, he gets jealous and goes on a killing spree as well. And it's quite the interesting contrast when you're watching both of these. It's like a cat and mouse game, but you can see both sides. And it was neat. It is very slow, and they do try to um, misdirect you in certain ways, but that's a little dated now too, and it didn't really hold up for me anyways. But I watch films like these all the time, so I'm very used to that. So um, but I thought it was a decent little thriller. Yeah, I wish they showed a little more kills, made it a little more interesting that way. But for what it is, it's an all right film. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely not terrible. It's a decent watch. It's good for if you're not really used to these like thrillers, you're not sure if you're gonna like it or not. Maybe try this one first and then go into the more crazier stuff like Silence of the Lambs and that. Um, and it'll be a better film to ease into. And the guy who played Mr. Lecter, Dr. Lecter, whatever, he did an interesting job, a little different than Anthony Hopkins did. You can see where Anthony Hopkins kind of tried to do similar things, but this guy kind of kept it a little more down tuned, and it's a little more different contrasts than in the Silence of the Lambs, where like Silence of the Lambs, he's in like a dungeon. This one, he's in like all white walls and like basically an insane asylum, and that freaks people out just by talking to them. And you get to see some cool aspects of him, like manipulating people over the phone and things like that, which is a little weird. And you never know when that will happen, right? So, but yeah, it's definitely a dark film, but it's very bright and vibrant at the same time to contrast the story, which was interesting. Yeah, so the art direction wasn't too bad. I think it was just a little too slow and needed a little more substance, and like whether it's the kills or even more character development for some of them and stuff, because most of the time I either didn't feel enough for them, or it was just not everything was there. And you could definitely, there's tons of areas where they could have filled it in a bit more, and where they just left it open for interpretation, which is fine. But for me, it was an alright film. So I'm gonna give Manhunter a 3.5 out of 5. It's definitely not as dark and gripping as The Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal, but it still was an interesting watch, and definitely interesting to see how back in like the mid 80s, 1986, when this came out, how they interpreted the novel and did it this way. And I see why they took more of a darker turn for the later movies, and it made it better, even better. But this one was still a decent film, but it's definitely not my favorite in the franchise. So, but yeah. But if it sounds like something you're interested in, there's a trail link down below, like always. Also, link down below is my Instagram. That's where I was post clips of films I'm going to review in the future on my story. I usually hide the film title and hashtag, subgenre film and hashtag, so you're aware of it. And also, my Letterbox is linked down below as well. That's where I post my first star rating right after watching the films. So follow me on one of those two platforms. Stay in loop with the channel. Like this video, share it so more people are aware of it. Comment your opinions of the film down below if you have any. If you have any other films or film franchises that you want to hear my opinions on in the future, comment those down below too. I'll try my best to get to them as soon as I can, and if I can find them. And also, let me know if you want me to do the other two Hannibal films, Red Dragon and Hannibal Rising, because I'm going to take a break from them for a little bit. But if you want me to hear my opinions on those, comment those down below. I have them in my collection, so I'll get them up sooner than later. But for now, I'm getting craving for cheesy horror, so there's like at least 6 I know that I want to check out. So I'm probably going to check those out for this next round. So make sure you ring that bell, because I think first one I'm actually going to check out is Blood Diner. I think I heard that one's a really good cheese fest, so I'll probably dive into that in the next review. So make sure you ring that bell, and don't forget to subscribe, because hopefully you can find something weird, obscure, and odd that you probably never thought checking out together, somewhat like this, or so you hear my opinions on popular films coming out, and classic films, and other things as well. So make sure you subscribe. And that's it for this one. So watch out for all those strange serial killers helping out the cops and doing strange killings anyways. I guess I'll see you all in the next review. So until then, cheers.